And he had a very interesting career. He started as an expert on Western philosophy. In fact, when I was a student in Saga University, he had just joined as a young lecturer. But what distinguished him from others was that he was also deeply interested in literature, in contemporary literature. And we were, some of us young ones, trying to raise the banner of the new, much to the dislike of the orthodox Hindi departments and such like. And one of the persons who encouraged us to do this was Dayakrishna. Later, of course, he shifted to Jaipur and he became the Pro-Vice Chancellor. But later in his philosophical career, he moved from that to the Indian philosophy. Before I invite him, may I present him with a bouquet of flowers?
Ashokji, and so many distinguished friends. I'm quite overwhelmed that I find that there are a whole lot of people who I've learned a lot from. So I thank you very much for coming here. Of course, I'm grateful to Raza Foundation for inviting me to give this very prestigious lecture. Dabhai was a much admired senior colleague. I first met him in the early 80s in Jaipur, but he began to take notice of me only after I published my first book as an Oxford philosophical monograph, Individualism in Social Science. And after that, he invited me to write for the ICPR journal, which he edited with so much dedication. He sent me articles for refereeing and books to review, and together we discovered many plagiarists, some very renowned figures. And these interactions made us friends. He was an immensely original and creative thinker, very dynamic, very energetic, a major figure of his generation in philosophy, but also, as I said, somebody you could have fun with, a charming friend. And so it's a real honor for me to give this lecture in his memory. Now, the title of my talk today, as you know, is Can We Afford Not to Be Secular? The structure and propositional content of this statement resembles statements like, can we afford not to have clean air? Can we afford not to have clean water? We know that we won't die immediately without clean water or air, but over a period of time it'll be difficult for us to survive. So the consequences of living without them for human life is very bad, indeed disastrous. Likewise, a very similar kind of question would be, can we afford not to live without good music or poetry? And again, we might be, it might barely survive as a society without them, but I don't think we'd survive as a good society. These good poetry, good music is an integral part of the good life, and no decent and civilized society can do without it. So I propose that the practice of secularism, and of course the cluster of thoughts behind it, are an integral part of a crucial dimension of a good collective life of society. Without secularism, we might survive, but we'll be much worse off. We will be a pretty horrid society. So really, we can't afford not to be secular, in the same sense in which we can't afford not to have clean water and so on. Now, this answer of mine is along expected lines. It won't surprise or at least those people sitting over here who have known my work. So the key question, I mean, this is a very simple question for me to answer, but the key question then is a conceptual one. And this is so because secular and secularism have many senses. They have multiple meanings. Secularism comes in many forms. And therefore we need to ask, in what sense or senses is it an important dimension of the good life, so crucial that we can't afford to lose it? Moreover, if the plural personal pronoun we refers to Indians, all of us, every single Indian, then the question is even more specific. In what sense or senses is it an important dimension of the good collective life of Indian citizens? Which secularism is well suited for us, such that, us meaning Indians, such that we can't afford to lose it? In what sense of secular, following which secularism, can Indians will Indians not survive, or Indian society will not survive as a good society? So really, it's a question of identifying which defensible secularism there is, and for us, and that's what I'm going to try and do here.